Aiden Cole stepped off the cargo shuttle and entered the bright hallway of Vara 7 station, the same way he did every week. He had a calm walk, a steady pace, and eyes that looked like he was always thinking about something far away. Many travelers passed by him, tall, insect-like traders, short fur-covered engineers, floating energy beings, but Aiden always seemed like the only human in the middle of a busy alien world. He breathed in slowly. The air of the station had a faint, metallic smell, mixed with different alien spices from the food stalls around. But he didn't stop for anything. He already knew where he was going. He walked straight toward the diner on Deck 3, a place called the Silver Star, where food sizzled on hot plates, and workers shouted orders in different languages. Inside the diner, Lyra rushed around the tables. She was a young alien woman with soft, natural beauty, gentle lavender skin, and big blue eyes that showed every emotion she felt. Her species had thin markings on the sides of their faces that changed color depending on their feelings, and hers often glowed a faint teal whenever she was confused or surprised. For some reason, they glowed a lot whenever Aiden visited. Lyra held a tray of plates when she saw him walk in, and her eyes widened in disbelief. Her heart skipped a beat. She whispered under her breath, "Again? Already?" She had expected him next week. But he was here just 5 days after his last visit, earlier than usual. Aiden raised a hand in greeting, a small, friendly wave. He headed toward the same booth he always chose, the corner booth, near the window, looking out into the stars. Lyra tried to act normal, but her mind was full of questions. Why was he here early? Why did he always look tired but calm? Why did he eat so much? She walked to his table with a datapad in hand. "You're back sooner than normal," she said with a professional smile, though her voice carried honest surprise. Aiden gave a small shrug. "Schedule changed. Thought I would drop by." "Your usual meal?" she asked. He nodded. 2 plates. Lyra blinked. 2 plates. Always 2 plates. Not small. Not medium. 2 full portions of a heavy meal that alien workers with large bodies ordered only during long shifts. She had served large reptilian miners who needed energy for physical work, and even they ordered only 1 plate. Aiden, the quiet human, ate 2 with no struggle. She tapped the order into her datapad. "Coming right up." As she walked back to the kitchen, she felt the familiar confusion rising again. She had studied human biology in basic training before getting her job. Humans had a fast metabolism, yes, but nothing like this. Most humans who visited the diner ate normal-sized meals, but not Aiden. He always looked like someone who had been working non-stop for days, yet he stayed on his feet with no sign of slowing down. When she brought the first plate to him, Aiden thanked her politely. His manners were simple but warm, something many aliens admired about humans. He started eating immediately, calmly, and quickly. Lyra watched from across the room as she refilled a customer's drink. He didn't rush, but he didn't pause either. His movements were smooth, like someone who had practiced eating efficiently. Within minutes, the first plate was empty. Lyra stared, then shook her head, as if trying to clear her thoughts. She gathered the empty plate, holding it firmly so she wouldn't drop it. "You finished this already?" "Yeah." She almost told him this was impossible. But she stopped herself. She didn't want to sound rude. Instead, she forced a smile and hurried back to get the second plate. Behind the counter, the cook, a wide, scale-covered alien named Gornak, leaned over. "He finished the first plate already?" he asked. "He did," Lyra sighed. "Maybe he has 2 stomachs," Gornak joked. "I studied humans," she said, lightly hitting his arm with the towel. "They don't." Gornak laughed, but Lyra didn't. Not really. Something felt strange about this human. Not dangerous. Aiden was always polite, always calm, but mysterious. She took the second plate to him. "Do you eat this much every day?" "Do you eat this much every day?" "Only on work days," Aiden answered simply. What kind of work? She asked before she could stop herself. He paused for half a second, then said, Cargo technician. Lyra felt something wasn't right. Cargo technicians didn't come in with tired eyes, torn sleeves, or faint dust marks on their boots that looked like they came from places far more dangerous than a cargo bay. But she didn't want to push. Her species valued personal space and privacy deeply. She just nodded politely and left him to finish his second plate. As she worked, she kept glancing in his direction. The more she watched, the more she noticed small details. Aiden sat like a man who carried weight on his shoulders, not physical cargo, but something heavier. His shoulders were strong but tired, his hands steady but marked with tiny burns that no normal cargo worker should have. Once he finished eating, he sat back with a slow breath, as if the food finally restored something inside him. Lyra walked toward him again, trying to look calm even though her teal markings were glowing brightly with curiosity. Feeling better? She asked. A bit, he replied with a small smile. You know, she said gently, if you keep eating like this, the other workers will start thinking humans are secretly giants inside. Aiden chuckled softly. Maybe we just hide our strength well. Lyra appreciated the joke, but his eyes told a different story. They held unspoken exhaustion. He wasn't tired from lack of sleep. He was tired from something else, something intense, something risky. Before she could say anything more, a group of loud travelers entered the diner. Lyra excused herself and hurried to serve them. The moment she turned away, Aiden's shoulders relaxed. He ran a hand across his forehead, wiping away a thin layer of sweat he didn't want anyone to notice. His body was still recovering. Last night, he hadn't been working cargo. He had been inside a damaged orbital module, helping pull trapped workers out before the failing power core detonated. No alien soldier could withstand the unstable radiation long enough, but Aiden could. Humans had unusual resistance to certain cosmic energy fields, something their species didn't advertise. It had saved many lives, but it came with a cost. The heavy meals he ate weren't for pleasure, they were to replenish energy he burned faster than his body could naturally recover. He hid all of this. He didn't want attention. More importantly, he didn't want Lyra to worry. After Lyra finished serving the new arrivals, she looked toward Aiden again. He was already standing, getting ready to leave. She rushed to bring him his payment tablet, but she slowed her steps when she noticed something. The way he stood wasn't normal. He was upright, steady, but a faint stiffness moved through his movements. Not pain. Exactly more like someone whose body had endured something intense. She approached slowly. Are you sure you're all right? Aiden smiled in a way that almost hid the truth. I'm fine. Really. Lyra didn't believe him, but she didn't know how to say it. Instead, she handed him the tablet. Your total is the usual. He tapped it, adding a tip far larger than she expected. She couldn't hide her surprise. You don't have to do that, she said softly. I know, he replied, but I want to. Before she could say anything more, he turned toward the door. She watched him walk away again, the same way she watched him every week. But this time, she felt something new, a sense of worry, like a small shadow forming inside her chest. She didn't understand humans fully, but she understood danger. Something was happening around Aiden, and he was keeping it hidden. As the automatic doors closed behind him, she whispered under her breath. Her markings glowed softly, full of confusion and concern. She didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Lyra kept thinking about Aiden long after he left the diner that day. She tried to focus on her work, serving plates, refilling drinks, taking orders, but her mind kept returning to him. Something about his tired smile, the faint stiffness in his walk, and the way he said, I'm fine, made her uneasy. Her species could read emotions well, even across different alien races, and she could feel it clearly. Aiden was hiding something. Every time she passed the window, She tried to see whether he was still walking down the station corridor, but he disappeared quickly into the crowd of travelers. The strange feeling in her chest didn't go away for hours. When her shift ended, she sat in the empty booth where he usually sat. She touched the table softly, as if it held some clue. The stars outside the large window shimmered against the quiet backdrop of space. She wondered where Aiden was now. Sleeping? Working? Recovering from whatever had left his clothes burned the other day? She sighed and pushed herself up. She didn't know why she cared so much. But she did. Meanwhile, Aiden was far from resting. He had barely stepped out of the diner when his communicator buzzed with a coded message. Only 3 words appeared on the small screen. Emergency. Need you. He closed his eyes for a moment, exhausted in a way no one around him could understand. But he didn't hesitate. He turned and headed toward the restricted maintenance area on Deck 12. He moved quietly through the station, avoiding busy crowds. He didn't want anyone, especially Lyra, to see where he was going. When he reached the lower deck, 2 armored alien officers greeted him with relieved eyes. "You're here," one said. "Good. We thought you might still be off-world." "Situation?" Aiden asked, his voice calm. "Power core leak in Research Bay 4. Radiation increasing. No one else can go inside." Aiden nodded slowly. "How long do I have?" 6 minutes before the containment fails." Aiden didn't need more explanation. The same cosmic radiation that weakened most species reacted differently with humans. It didn't make him immune, but it slowed the damage enough for him to move, rescue, patch, or drag survivors out before they died. It was not a job humans were officially known for. Most aliens thought humans were physically weak, but the truth was that humans were strangely resistant to certain universal dangers: extreme heat, sudden pressure changes, unpredictable energy fields. No one understood why. Not even humans. Aiden didn't care about the science. He only cared about saving lives. He strapped on a simple protective vest, even though it did little against this kind of radiation. It was more for the officer's peace of mind than his. "I'll go," he said, stepping past them. One of the officers stopped him. "You already helped last night. You don't have to push yourself again." Aiden gave a tired smile. "If I don't go, someone dies. I can rest later." With that, he entered the dangerous bay. The air inside had a strange, vibrating hum, and blue sparks of unstable energy danced across the flooring. A normal alien soldier would have collapsed immediately. Aiden felt it burning against his skin, but he pushed forward. He found the trapped researcher and carried her out, then sealed the leak manually, his arms shaking with the effort. By the time he finished, he could barely stand, but the job was done. The officers rushed inside to help him walk. "Aiden, this is going to kill you one day," one said in a worried tone. "Not today," he whispered, forcing a small smile. They brought him to a quiet recovery room. When he finally lay down on the medical bed, exhaustion dragged him into sleep. Hours later, when the station lights dimmed into night mode, Lyra walked home through the curved corridor leading to her living quarters. She tried listening to cheerful music, but it didn't help. Her thoughts were full of Aiden, his tired eyes, his gentle smile, and the strange danger she sensed around him. She didn't understand why she cared this much, but she couldn't stop feeling worried. The next morning, she returned to the diner for her shift. She told herself not to expect Aiden today. He had come early this week. He probably wouldn't show again so soon. But she caught herself glancing at the door every few minutes. When lunchtime came and the diner became busy, she was forced to stop thinking about him. She moved from table to table, balancing trays and greeting customers. Then someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned around and froze. Aiden stood there. Today, he looked even more tired. His posture was straight, but his eyes had deep shadows beneath them. He tried to smile, but it looked weak. "You're back, again," she said softly. Yeah. His voice was quiet. Long night. I need food. Lyra didn't know whether to scold him for working too much or to sit him down immediately. Her teal markings brightened with worry. Your usual? She asked. 2 plates, he said. She hesitated. Aiden, you should rest. I'm fine, he insisted gently. Lyra bit her lip. Humans said they were fine even when they were not. She had learned that much. She brought his first plate. When she placed it on the table, she noticed his hands shaking slightly before he steadied them. Aiden, she whispered, leaning closer so no one else would hear. Please tell me the truth. He looked up at her slowly. About what? You're hurt, she said. I can see it. You came here 5 days early. Then today, you came again. That's not normal. Your species doesn't work like that. Aiden didn't respond for a moment. He stared at his plate instead, as if searching for the right words. Finally, he said, My job is different. Sometimes I get called when something dangerous happens. What kind of danger? She asked. The kind I can help with, he replied quietly. He began eating, but Lyra stayed standing beside him longer than usual, worried, unsure, but unwilling to walk away. When she finally returned to the counter, she kept watching him. This time, he didn't finish the plate as quickly. He ate slower, taking small breaths between each bite. She realized something frightening. He wasn't eating for taste. He was eating for survival. When he finished the second plate, he didn't immediately get up. He sat there, resting his elbows on the table, breathing slowly. Lyra approached again, fighting the urge to touch his shoulder. Aiden, whatever you're doing, it's hurting you. He looked up with tired eyes. It's worth it. Why? What could be worth this? She whispered. He didn't answer. Not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. His missions were confidential, and he refused to bring danger into her life. He stood up slowly. Thank you for the food, Lyra. She stepped in front of him before he could leave. Her markings glowed bright teal, showing her intense worry. If something happens to you, you don't have to suffer alone. She undersigned. Aiden froze. Her words hit him harder than any energy blast ever had. He looked at her, really looked. Her gentle beauty, her concerned eyes, the way she genuinely cared for someone she barely knew. For a moment, he felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in a long time. But he gently shook his head. You shouldn't worry about me. I can't help it, she said softly. He hesitated, then lowered his gaze. I'll be okay, Lyra. I promise. It sounded like a lie, but he didn't mean it to be. He left the diner again, walking slower this time. Lyra stared at the door for a long time after he was gone. For some reason, she felt like she had just watched someone walking toward danger he might not come back from. She pressed a hand against her chest, trying to calm her heartbeat. Why do you keep doing this to yourself, Aiden? She whispered. She had no idea that soon she would witness the answer with her own eyes during the most terrifying emergency Vara 7 had faced in years. The next day began quietly on Vara 7 station. The halls were calm, the lights were steady, and the large windows showed a peaceful stretch of stars. Lyra prepared tables inside the diner, trying to focus on arranging plates and cleaning booths. But her mind kept drifting back to Aiden again and again. His tired eyes, the faint tremble in his hands, the way he forced a smile even when he could barely stand, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time the diner door opened, she turned her head, hoping to see him walk in. Half of her wanted him to rest and stay away for a day or two. The other half simply wanted to make sure he was okay. Her emotions kept mixing in a way she had never experienced before. But on this particular day, Aiden didn't appear. And that made her heart even heavier. She told herself that he was probably resting. Or maybe he had finally taken a break. But her instincts whispered something else. Humans did not look the way he looked yesterday, unless something dangerous was happening again. Just as she placed a tray on the counter, the station lights flickered once. Then again. A low, deep alarm began to echo through the halls, rumbling like distant thunder. Every traveler in the diner stopped talking. Lyra felt her body freeze as dread crept into her chest. The emergency broadcast system activated with a sharp beep. Attention all residents and visitors of Vara 7. A large-scale collision has occurred on the station's outer ring. Multiple sections damaged, fires spreading, containment fields unstable. Rescue teams mobilized. Lyra's heart dropped. The outer ring was full of workers, traders, and families. If containment failed, entire sections could depressurize. Many could be trapped, and she knew, without a doubt, what this meant. Aiden would be called. She rushed out of the diner before anyone could stop her. Her feet moved fast along the curved hallway toward the central lift. She didn't know where she was going exactly, she only knew she had to find him. She couldn't stay still, not with danger spreading across the station. As she ran, she passed streams of alien officers hurrying toward the damage zone. Smoke drifted from a distant corridor. Sparks rained down from a broken light panel. People shouted, alarms blared, and the entire station trembled with fear. When she reached the main rescue area, she saw armored soldiers standing in a nervous circle, and in the center of them, Aiden. He was standing straight, wearing a protective vest again, his face pale and tired. His hair was slightly messy, and his jaw was tight with determination. He looked like someone who had already fought through exhaustion and was about to face something far worse. He didn't notice Lyra at first. She pushed her way through the crowd until she was close enough to see how much he was struggling to stay balanced. One of the officers spoke urgently. "The fires are too intense. The radiation near the broken engines is rising. No one can get close enough to pull out the survivors." Aiden nodded. "I'll handle it." "You can't go alone this time," another officer said firmly. "Your body is still recovering from last night. You could collapse in there." Aiden breathed out slowly. "If I don't go, people will die. You know that." Lyra felt her heart twist painfully. She stepped forward without thinking. "Aiden!" He finally turned, and his eyes widened when he saw her. Shock, worry, and guilt flashed across his face. "Lyra, what are you doing here?" he asked softly. "You can't go in there," she said, her voice shaking. He took a step toward her, his expression gentle but firm. "I have to. There are families trapped. Children. Workers. If I don't go, they won't make it in time." Her markings glowed bright teal with fear. "You'll get yourself killed." Aiden shook his head. "Not if I'm careful." "You weren't careful yesterday," she whispered. "I saw how weak you were." He closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't want her to see how scared he truly was. Scared not of the danger, but of what she would feel if something happened to him. Before he could respond, an officer shouted, "Containment is dropping. We need someone inside now." Aiden turned toward the entrance hatch. The heat waves were visible, from here shimmering air, thick smoke, and the faint blue glow of unstable energy. Lyra grabbed his arm desperately. "Please, don't go." Aiden placed his hand gently over hers. His touch was warm, steady, and full of silent gratitude. "Lyra, thank you for caring. It means more than you know. But I can't stand here and let people die." Her eyes filled with fear. She didn't know what to say. She just watched helplessly as he stepped away from her and walked toward the danger. He glanced back one last time before entering the smoke-filled corridor. "I'll come back," he said softly. "I promise." Then the hatch sealed behind him. Inside, the conditions were far worse than expected. Fire choked the air. Smoke drifted like dark clouds, and debris covered the floor. Emergency lights flickered red and orange along shattered walls. Aiden moved quickly, ignoring the burning heat crawling against his skin. The unstable energy waves pulsed, making his body feel heavier with every step. His vision blurred, but he pushed forward. He found the first group of survivors, 3 workers trapped under fallen metal panels. Their voices were weak, their bodies trembling. "A rescue team? You shouldn't be here. It's too dangerous," one coughed. Aiden didn't waste time arguing. In one powerful motion, he lifted the metal debris off them and pulled them free. His arms felt numb, but he kept moving. He guided them toward the exit hatch and shouted through the comm system, "3 survivors coming out. Send medics." He didn't wait to rest. He turned and ran deeper into the danger zone. The station trembled again. A section of the ceiling collapsed behind him, blocking the only path back. He didn't panic. He kept searching. The heat grew stronger. The radiation hit him like invisible waves, making his muscles twitch. But Aiden refused to stop. Then he found the second group. A family, 2 adults, and a small child huddled behind a damaged energy console. The child was crying softly. The parents looked terrified. Aiden knelt beside them. "I'll get you out. Stay close." He carried the child in his arms while guiding the parents through falling sparks and broken tiles. Every step felt harder. His legs felt weak, his breath unsteady. But he kept going. When he finally reached a side exit, the officers waiting there gasped when they saw him. "He can barely stand, pull him out." But Aiden shook his head. One more group. Deeper inside. He turned before anyone could stop him. Outside the danger zone, Lyra stood near the viewing window. Her hands pressed to the glass. Officers rushed around her, but she ignored them. Her eyes stayed fixed on the smoke-filled corridor, hoping, praying, wishing she could somehow reach him. Every time someone emerged from the hatch, she held her breath. First 3 workers, then a small child crying as medics took her away. Then the parents, shaking and coughing. But no Aiden. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the hatch opened again, and Aiden staggered out, supporting 2 more injured workers. His steps were slow, uneven, and unstable. His entire body trembled. His protective vest was melted along one side. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. When Lyra saw him, something inside her broke. Her body suddenly felt light, weak, and far away. Her vision blurred. Her knees gave out. She collapsed to the ground. Several officers gasped and rushed toward her, but Aiden saw her first. Despite his exhaustion, he moved as fast as he could. He dropped to his knees beside her and held her before she hit the floor completely. "Lyra," he whispered, panic in his voice. "Lyra, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open slowly as she looked up at him. "You came back," she whispered. Aiden felt his heart tighten. "Of course I did." Her markings glowed faintly in a soft, gentle shade. She fainted, but not from fear. From overwhelming relief. Aiden held her close, ignoring the pain in his arms. All the officers watched, stunned. The human who walked through fire and radiation without fear looked more terrified now, because he was afraid for her. As medics rushed over, Aiden whispered to her softly, "I'm here. I'm right here." And for the first time since he arrived on Vara 7, he allowed himself to feel something he had been ignoring for weeks. He cared about her too. A soft light filled the medical bay when Lyra slowly opened her eyes. She felt warmth on one side of her face, a gentle, steady warmth that didn't feel like a machine. When her vision cleared, she realized she was resting on a soft medical bed, surrounded by blue curtains. The faint sound of beeping monitors echoed in the quiet room. Then she turned her head slightly and saw Aiden sitting in a chair beside her. His head was lowered, resting on his folded arms near her bedside. He had fallen asleep, right there. His hair was messy, His clothes were dirty from smoke and dust, and his hands were scratched. Even in sleep, he looked exhausted. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Something warm spread through her chest, relief, gratitude, and something deeper she didn't yet have a name for. She slowly reached out with a trembling hand and touched his arm. He woke instantly, as if her touch pulled him back from deep sleep. When he saw her awake, his tired eyes brightened with so much emotion that she felt breathless. "Lyra," he whispered, sitting up straight. "You're awake. Thank goodness." She tried to speak, but her voice was soft. You came out alive. I saw you. And then, everything went dark." Aiden nodded, a gentle smile touching his lips. "You collapsed. I was scared. More scared than when I was inside that burning corridor." Lyra's markings glowed faint teal as she lowered her gaze. Aiden looked down at his own hands. They were still shaking slightly, though he hid it as best as he could. "You shouldn't have worried so much. I didn't want you to see me like that, tired, burned, weak. But I did see it," Lyra replied softly. "And I'm glad I did. Now I understand why you always look tired. Why you come early. Why you eat so much. You're carrying too much alone." For a moment, Aiden didn't speak. He looked like someone searching for the right words, someone not used to talking about their own struggles. Finally, he said, "Some jobs are easier to do alone. Fewer people get pulled into danger that way. But you're not alone," she whispered. "Not anymore." Aiden's breath caught slightly. He wasn't expecting those words. He wasn't used to anyone wanting to share his burden. Before he could respond, the curtain slid open, and the station commander stepped inside, a broad-shouldered alien with silver armor and strong presence. He saw Aiden and frowned. "Human," the commander said. "You should be resting in your assigned recovery room. You took in more radiation than recommended for a month." Aiden straightened. "I'm fine." "No," the commander said firmly. "You are not fine. You risked your life again, and this time, it nearly cost you and everyone depending on you." Aiden accepted the words quietly. He knew they were true. Lyra sat up slightly. "Commander, Aiden saved so many people. Without him," the commander raised a hand gently. "I know. That is why I am not angry. But I am worried. We all are." He looked at Aiden. "Your bravery has saved hundreds since you arrived on this station. But bravery without caution becomes self-destruction." Aiden lowered his gaze. "I promise to be more careful." "You better keep that promise," the commander said before turning to leave. "And take care of the one who cares for you. She collapsed because she feared for your life." Aiden and Lyra both froze. The commander stepped out, leaving the curtain slightly open. For a moment, silence filled the room. Lyra's face warmed as her markings glowed brighter. Aiden rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "That wasn't exactly subtle," he muttered. Lyra let out a soft laugh. "The first one since the emergency." "He is not wrong." Litter. "He—" Aiden exhaled, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Lyra, I didn't want you to worry. I never wanted to drag you into the danger around me." "You didn't drag me," she said gently. "I ran after you myself. Because you matter to me." Aiden blinked, surprised. Not many people had told him that in his life. Most saw him as a worker, a rescuer, a tool for dangerous missions. But Lyra saw him as something else, someone worth caring for. He lowered his voice. "You matter to me too." Lyra felt something flutter inside her chest. She studied his face, his tired eyes, his bruised skin, the warmth behind his quiet smile. She realized she had cared for him from the moment he first walked into her diner booth, looking like a man carrying invisible weight. She reached out and gently took his hand. It was warm and rough, but he didn't pull away. "You fight so hard for everyone," she whispered. "Let someone fight for you too." Aiden stared at their joined hands. No one had said something like that to him before. No one had ever offered to stand beside him. "I don't know how to do that," he admitted. Lyra smiled softly. "Then, I will teach you." A peaceful silence followed. The tension and fear of the past day seemed to melt away. Aiden leaned back in his chair, and Lyra rested her head lightly on the pillow, still holding his hand. After a few minutes, a medical assistant arrived and checked Aiden's vitals. When he left, Lyra spoke again. "What will happen now? Will you go back to dangerous missions?" Aiden took a deep breath. "I'm still part of the emergency team. But maybe it doesn't have to be like before. Maybe I don't have to carry everything by myself." Lyra nodded. "Yes. You can talk to me. You can rest. You can slow down a little. Your life is important too." Aiden looked at her grateful eyes and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. After a while, Lyra tried to sit up fully, but her legs were still weak. Aiden stood and helped her gently, supporting her back with steady hands. She didn't protest. His touch was careful, warm, and full of concern. "Don't push yourself," he said softly. "You fainted." "You need time too," she replied. He smiled slightly. "Maybe we both do." The medical bay door opened wider this time, and a group of station officers walked inside carrying something shiny. A curved metallic badge rested in a clear case. "Aiden Cole," one officer announced. "By order of the station council, you are awarded the honor of bravery for saving 28 civilians during the Outer Ring emergency." Everyone in the room clapped softly. Aiden stood there, stunned. He had never wanted awards. He only wanted people to live. The officer continued. "The council requests that someone close to you stands with you during the ceremony. Do you have someone in mind?" Aiden's eyes moved toward Lyra immediately. Her markings glowed in surprise. He swallowed softly. "Yes, I do." Lyra's breath caught. She pointed at herself. "Me?" Aiden nodded. "If you want to." Her eyes softened. "I would be honored." The officer smiled and left the badge by the bedside. After they exited, Aiden turned back to Lyra. "You were the first person I thought of," he said gently. Lyra looked down shyly. "Why me?" "Because you cared even when you didn't have to," he said. "Because seeing you safe means more to me than any mission. Because you make this place feel less lonely." Created. We canned on mated. X is saying. Weak. Because you make this place feel less lonely. Her heart warmed. She touched his cheek softly with her fingertips. He didn't move away. He closed his eyes for a moment, leaning into her gentle touch. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "You won't," he replied. "Not if I can help it." She smiled. A soft, beautiful smile, filled with relief and affection. Later that evening, they walked out of the medical bay together, Aiden still a little unsteady, Lyra still a little weak, but both leaning on each other for support. The station lights glowed warm above them, and the long corridor ahead felt less lonely than ever before. For the first time since Aiden arrived on Vara 7, he wasn't walking alone. And for the first time in her life, Lyra wasn't just watching someone from a distance, she was walking beside him. As they reached the lift toward Deck 3, Lyra squeezed his hand gently. "Aiden," she said with a small smile, "next time you want to run into danger, tell me first." He laughed softly. "Only if you promise not to collapse again." She rolled her eyes, but her markings glowed playfully. "I was scared." "I know," he said, his voice warm. "And that's why I came back." Together, they stepped into the lift as the doors closed behind them, leaving behind the fear, carrying forward something new, something bright, something neither of them had expected, something that felt like the beginning of a very different future.